Hi, and welcome to Project Koala meeting. This is June 4th, 2025. And we have things on the agenda, fun things. But first, I see we have one newcomer here to this group, Kyle. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hey, I'm Kyle Crane. I've been working in this space for specifically the past 3 years, trying to build up better visibility into what's actually getting deployed. I came at this a little bit differently. I'm very happy to find this group finally, and to learn more about the T. But yeah, I've kind of looked at this on trying to get more visibility and accountability within Git. But yeah, I'll leave it there for now.
Okay. Do you want to mention your affiliation? What you
Yeah,
work
so
with?
my company's Signal.fyi. I'm in the middle of rediscovering what's an appropriate path forward. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, cool. Welcome.
Thank you.
Niklas, you were at the hackathon. I don't know if you've been to any of these meetings before.
I
You want
don't
to say
think
a
I
few
was
words?
actually. Yeah, for
No.
sure. So maybe I should turn on my camera even. It would be even better. Yep. Hi, I'm Niklas. I co-maintain or I co-lead the OWASP dependency track project. So naturally, we have a big interest in T, the T API to become a reality. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it.
Cool. I can mention that I've been having meetings today with representatives from Swedish businesses, fairly high level, CEOs, CTOs, and companies in the stock market. And I told them about T and what we're trying to do with it, and they were really impressed. And they said that we need to be able to put this in requirements ASAP. So get it done. I said, write a check and I'll work harder. We'll see. But we have a window of opportunity, and that's now. It's really important, especially here in Europe with all the legislation that's coming that requires vendors to have due diligence and have full control over all the components in the products. This is really important. So I'm happy of where we are. Okay, Steve, what's happening in CycloneDX and other work groups?
Yeah, so let's see. Update from the TC and TGs. So CycloneDX 1.7 still currently under development. We are in the process of removing two of the features because they're going to take a long time. They're going to be redone for 2.0. So we're going to try to get 1.7 out this year. We'll see if that's even possible or not. So I'm simultaneously working on 1.7 and 2.0. 2.0 is a complete refactor, mostly compatible with 1.x, but is a complete refactor. And the nice thing about 2.0 is that it doesn't assume that it's going to be a file. There is an API thing for this, which is going to work really, really well, I believe, with T. I'm currently in the process of for the TC54. I'm currently in the process of redoing how we do our documentation for CycloneDX with EC markup because it's an all automated process. So that's taking a tremendous amount of time. Package URL I think is on track to have something submitted to TC54 by the September timeframe. That is going to position it so that it can hopefully be voted on positively at the December GEA. VERS, on the other hand, will likely be next year. The group just doesn't have capacity to do Perl and VERS in a single year. So VERS will be a follow-up spec. One thing to note about Perl is that what we are doing is we are not standardizing Perl types. We are standardizing the Perl syntax. However, as part of that Perl specification, we will be including the machine readable way to define Perl types as part of the spec. So while the Perl types themselves will not be included, the definition of how to define Perl types will be included. So that's kind of the thing there. We've got a TC54. What's that?
Will there be a registry for Perl types, or what's the plan moving forward?
We have an index. Yes, we have an index that is going to list all the Perl types. Obviously, you can choose not to use that index, right? You can use your own, but there is an index that then spiders off to the actual definitions themselves. We're also going to be including the test cases in the definition of the Perl types. What this means is that you can create an implementation of Perl and not know anything about the type and automatically know how to handle that Perl type. So this is going to be a really big change from what we currently do, which is a lot of if then else's based on the Perl type, and it ends up being spaghetti code. So that's good. The common lifecycle enumeration is also, I think, on track for September for a positive vote in the December GA. I do know the Open EOX folks from OASIS have kind of reached out to us. The only thing that we've seen from that group is a white paper, not anything of actual substance. So we actually have parts of the spec already in a pull request draft state. So that's going to continue being refined. The sustainability stuff, there was a working group on sustainability, and that group is now going to be its own spec, we believe. There is a upcoming TC54 meeting, I think it's tomorrow. And one of the things on the agenda is to vote for the formation of TG4, which would be for the sustainability specification. And I think that is all.
So question, with the addition of insights to CycloneDX in version 2, correct?
Yeah.
Is version 2 kind of going to make it for sort of middle of next year or end of next year or later?
I don't know. It's going to happen next year is the goal. Now we can theoretically, if we wanted to do a 1.1 release of T, for example, to include insights, I don't necessarily know if the 2.0 spec has to be formalized at that point. I don't think that's a requirement. It would be nice if it were. But the reality is that as long as we have a JSON schema available and that we clearly indicate that it is like a release candidate or a beta or whatever, I think that should be sufficient.
Thanks.
Okay, can you mention a little bit more about the sustainability? What's the idea behind that?
Yeah, this group is led by Salve, and what it is a way for open source projects to assert the kinds of resources that they need to help maintain the sustainability of the open source project that they maintain. So, for example, if a project needs graphic services or code review or marketing or events type of things, there's all different kinds of ways to kind of assert, what that project needs. It also has the ability to say, like, what is the intent for support, quote unquote support, because it's open source, right? What is the intent? Is it kind of a best effort? Is it, is something going to be unsupported? Is something, are you going to only not support it, but only do security fixes, right? That's kind of a way for maintainers to kind of assert in a machine readable way the sustainability information for their respective project. The idea is that this file would be checked into version control, and through automation, you can pick up the sustainability information with various tools.
Yep. Possibly some artifact type in T as well.
Yep.
This fits very nicely into the requirements of due diligence in the Cyber Resilience Act. So that communication between downstream manufacturer and upstream open source project can be automated, and we get, I would say, expectations on the right level.
Yeah. It's a really small group of folks. If you are interested or you think you know people that might be interested, have them attend the calls. We're trying to make this useful for everyone, and the more opinions we get, the more use cases we'll be able to achieve.
Salve is kind of shy in doing that, but I think we have to mention this in our CVG and possibly OpenSSF and recruit people, because this is an important piece of the puzzle and we need many eyes on it.
Indeed.
Okay.
But
Cool.
one question, if you say it's been split off into its own spec, does that mean it'll still be CycloneDX or it will not be CycloneDX?
Well, originally the plan was to put this information in CycloneDX. However, it became apparent early on that this information really needs to be owned and controlled by the open source maintainer. And one of the challenges I think we have, unfortunately, is some politics with regard to the ownership of GitHub. And we didn't want that politics to kind of get in the way of the adoption of sustainability specs. It's kind of an unfortunate reality. So it was decided that because this data is going to be dynamic, very much like VEX data is dynamic, for example, or vulnerability information is dynamic, we wanted to have a standalone spec that would be very, very simple just to encode the sustainability information.
Cool.
What kind of dynamic are you talking about when you speak about the ownership part there? Just
The
from my
ownership of
understanding.
what?
Like who you mentioned something about GitHub and ownership.
Oh, yeah. Ping me offline.
Okay.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
Do you have more questions about current work in other parts of the CycloneDX spectrum? Moving on. In the hackathon at OWASP AppSec Barcelona, we made a rough plan for moving forward, and I just wanted to go through that here. We have planned a number of workshops, which is on the next bullet. We'll try to, based on our experience and current discussions, shoot for beta 2 around the end of the month here. We want to plan a virtual hackathon in August. I'm gonna start chatting about that with suggesting dates in the Slack channel, so keep an eye open for that. If I don't get any responses, I'll just pick a date and go for it. After the hackathon, hopefully we'll have a little bit more of implementation experience from more people. We're going to have a beta 3. And at that point, we're going to start a more formal ECMA process of converting all documents to the right format and all that. We still can do changes, but we're going to have regular meetings in our task group within ECMA and start that work. Sometime in the fall, after we feel confident with beta 3, I want to release version 1.0. Not many people would care about the 1.0, so we, after that, need to move forward and quickly release a 1.1 after we found the problems. But we have to plan properly in Q4 another hackathon. to get more involvement, more code, possibly combination of physical and virtual. Our ECMA standard target is to be ready in March, April next year, to be voted on in the assembly at mid-year next year. Does everyone think this is reasonable, something we can achieve?
Oh,
The standard is ambitious, like we need progress for sure with at least with the basics, like the PR that Nicholas wanted to discuss today. I think that's very important.
Mark?
yeah, can I suggest that you just add another bullet if you want to sort of make a statement about that the target for ECMA is June 2026, perhaps mention when the cutoff is for being ready for that, because it's going to be before June.
Yeah. Okay. Let's shoot for this and hope that we can get everything in place. I know you all want to discuss objects. We'll have a little time, but we have planned workshops for that. And the workshops are where we do real work discussing technical issues right now. So we had a publication workshop, and I want to go through some of the output of that. We're going to have, I probably have to add a bullet for that. Sorry, I arrived to the office just a few minutes before the meeting, so I didn't have an agenda. We plan a new publication workshop because we have Chris Langton from Australia. We're planning that early morning. I'm sorry, Pavel. But I'm going to go through what we discussed in the earlier one.
Even Kyle are in the same boat, unless they didn't want to participate.
Where are you based, Kyle?
You're in Washington, D.C.
I'm in the DC area.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is European time. So 9:30 is 3:30 our time.
That's all right. It wouldn't be the first time I'm up at that time.
Nah. So we're kind of mixing, having workshop both time that fits Chris because he's contributing a lot, and time that fits Americas and Europe as well, like this. We're going to have a discussion about all the models and data models, and so we already planned this. If you haven't got Zoom invites for this, just let me know and I'll add you to Zoom. Otherwise, I'll add a Zoom link in the Slack channel before the meeting. So watch out for these days. Make sure you can attend, especially if you have issues you want to discuss. And possibly we should plan another workshop the week after, but I'll make some suggestions on that because we have a I'll make a note for myself here to suggest a time and date. Okay, let me switch sharing a bit. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
A happy koala. Okay. So we had a long discussion, and we tried to discuss various use cases and everything. At the hackathon, we began discussing events. And I just opened a ticket there, and I saw that there was some discussion in the Slack channel, but please add your feedback to the ticket so we can capture it in there. But I see that we now have 3 parts. We have the consumer API, we have the events, and we have T-publishing. And I very much would like one mandatory to implement standard for events. Otherwise, we'll leave implementers of the consumer side into trouble. If people want to make advanced solutions with something else, then we're open for that, but we need at least one mandatory to implement so we get interoperability across implementations. Because if someone use Kafka, another one use MQTT, and a third one use webhooks, and another one use email, I mean, we will get no interoperability, no baseline. So we have to find a solution there. But from now on, we have 3 different parts of the specification, and I'll try to update on GitHub so we see that we have 3 different parts. Make that clear. We also, during many meetings, have said that there will likely, in many cases in large corporations, be an internal compliance T-service where we have kind of automatic updates from CI/CD tool chains. And then we have, and it could be different platforms that deliver different things up to the T-service here. And we have some sort of publication process with approvals before we publish stuff on the internet-facing, customer-facing T-service. And of course, we always need to think about the hosted case as well. So a typical workflow would be a CI/CD toolchain uploads automatically attestations and SBOMs and other things to the internal compliance T-servers. And they have a release process where they actually sign something, and produce an external SBOM based on the internal ones. Redact some information, maybe add some information, I don't know. And we have the official public T-service. So we actually have 2 different publication processes we need to consider. And earlier on, we talked about having a publication client in a CLI client that easily can be controlled with thousands uppercase, lowercase, command line options, but built for automation. Of course, you can run a web GUI, or you could already have your platform for publishing, like Dependency Track or something else. So this is where the API fits in, but it's not as simple as there's only one model for publishing, and we need to acknowledge that. So we also acknowledge that there are cases where the files are on an external, very open file system, like GitHub or something else, and T is just the metadata about the files, and you find the files through T, and the files are somewhere else. So we can't make it mandatory to upload files in the publishing API, but it should be possible if the T storage and T service is the same system. We looked at various flows, and I don't think we're ready. We need to continue this discussion. But if you have a new product with a release, you create a product, you create a component, you stage a release, you haven't published it yet, and a collection object. You upload artifacts or you refer to existing artifacts. You create update collection reason. You sign and publish release and collection. That's kind of a commit where you make everything publish. But there is a stage here when you're working on things and you're not ready for publication. And we have to discuss how that would look in an API. Obviously, there's authorization because there can be different people uploading artifacts and staging stuff and someone else hitting the button, making it public. We also said, well, if you have a product and you have the components, then you just want to stage a new release and blah, 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 do things and sign and publish. And if you already have a release and a collection, you just want to update an artifact in it, then you have an even simpler process. So we need to gather these flows, see what's missing. So from these discussions that took quite some time, Chris already realized that, well, the stuff I have doesn't really fit this. So he's going to work on that. Steve.
Yeah, just a quick comment. For the most part, all the artifact servers like JFrog, Sonatype repository, they all basically have this same workflow. Like if you go back to that prior slide, that's a feature already in these platforms. There's probably a few things that we can actually learn from them. Like if you do the manual publishing to like OSSRH, for example, for if you're publishing to Maven Central, right? Well, you do a two-step process, right? You publish to OSSRH and then you release. And then once you release, then it actually becomes public. So there's probably some things that we can learn from those folks.
Piotr was heavily involved, and he is part of Maven, if I understand right, an Apache release process.
He is, but
we
they
need
have a
more
very
input.
different, they have a very, very different publishing process than most other.
I think so. But we need to get input from more people here, and that's why I'm going through this. We have to also create markdown files with this stuff in Mermaid. I will do that, so you can actually handle it on the Git repository as well. We also had a discussion. Oh, Matthias.
Yeah, about the staging part, are we looking to find the right technology there, or is it about finding the right process steps to do it?
In the end, we have to come down to an open API spec. So
Right.
yes,
So
to both.
I've been collaborating with someone that works on the update framework. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
But the structure that they have in that system is really helpful to have things that are published, but so they are available for getting it, but then having an official process to actually sign it so you know that it's verified and it has gone through the process that you can actually trust it. So that could be one of the ways to implement a staging process with delegated roles to actually do the signing and publishing steps after that. And I know that both NPM and Python repositories now, the public ones, they are implementing it in their backend to support tough signing to get that fully supported. But
yeah, and TUF signing is part of Sigstore as well.
well,
yeah, keep in mind though, like also that the artifacts themselves could be signed when you upload them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But we have that in the artifacts, right? We have a pointer for the artifact and a pointer for an external digital signature. So,
oh, it does. Okay. Well, what Tough does is a little bit different, and Sigstore is not really. They use it at the bottom layer to create their own trust foundation, but they're not signing everything with Tough.
No. Okay, cool. We need to update that. Can you, if I open a ticket, can you provide a few more pointers for reading?
Yeah, sure.
Or if you open a ticket, first one will get the ticket. Okay, there's no cost in open a ticket. As of now, we're do it for free. Okay.
Sure.
Cool. Going back here to publication events, Again, we had a discussion because this also affects the API, because we need to capture events in the API. So we had we define a new release, 1.6.0 release, go update. That's one event you may subscribe to. New version of the collection. We already have a 1.5.5 release, but we updated the VEX file or something else. There's a reason in there as well we need to distribute. New version of an artifact. That was something I think we have in the backlog that Piotr will start working on. But the SBOM for 1.4 changed, but that will also generate a new collection issue. But if you just want to subscribe to a single artifact, I don't care about the rest. We also have lifecycle event changes. We haven't got lifecycle events yet, but if something is end of life or is marked as insecure, we need to know that. But are there any other events that we haven't covered here? Basically, we came up with these 4.
Would it be possible, Ole, to have like an index of event types so that it's extensible?
Yeah, we can have, if we have a generic format for the events, which I think we should. We haven't gone that far in the discussion.
Okay.
But it should definitely be extensible. But I think it should also be standardized, so that clients know what to expect. If we open up for vendor-specific events too much, it'll be really hard covering that. We may have a MISC event for that kind of stuff. Pavel.
Yeah, there was, I think Meta started it, but yeah. A conversation on Slack regarding the events. Basically, I like the events. I think the concept is great. I just feel that the API itself should be able to supply all the data that's transmitted by events. So in that sense, given like very challenging timeline, I would say, could we move the events to 2.0 or something? And for 1.0, rely on clients to just pull the API for everything. I think that should be enough functionality wise.
We'll see. I hear what you say, but right now I would like to see if it's possible to reach something, because we had this grumpy developer in the hackathon from Niklas something that didn't want to poll at scale. And I heard from many others during the conference that this is a real problem. And if this is a problem that will stop us using T, I think we have to prioritize it. So let's give it a try and see if we can move forward.
Yeah, it's just my easy take. Easy, I mean, based on the amount of events that I see, that polling is actually better performance-wise than listening to events. Because on a scale, we're getting so many of those events, like in the real life scenarios.
So let's discuss that in one of the workshops instead of here.
Sure.
But the reason we started this was that polling wasn't acceptable for some, and you're saying the opposite. And so let's hash it out in a workshop. Okay.
I think in any case, I'm kind of with Pavel on this one. So this could be delayed to 1.1 because 1.1 is already kind of planned, right? It's already sure we're going to have 1.1. And for like the
we have beta 1 and beta 2.
Okay. But for the like the basic functionality of T, right? It should be sufficient to have the API ready and then iterate on that with events later. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing that with Insights anyway, so we're going to have another major or minor release. So you're
Yeah.
just saying put it in the backlog. So it's not minimal viable, is what you're saying. It's not a 1.0 thing.
Okay.
Yes.
Hear you. But we'll see what other people say and see if it's as complex as Pavel indicates. Not really sure, but we'll continue this discussion in the publication workshop. Okay, the hackathon in Barcelona. I'm going to start writing a report. We didn't have as many implementations because we released the beta very, very late. So we mostly had a full day workshop. There was some testing, but very minimal. But any other feedback on what we did?
Can we do Nicholas PR discussion now? Because I think that's actually the feedback also.
Yeah, but that's technical, but I'm discussing the method, right, Pavel? I know you want to discuss technology, but we have an agenda to go through. The workshops
you mean
are here for that.
you mean the way the hackathon itself?
Yep. Did it do any good? I mean, we got sponsored by ECMA and we need to write something back. We didn't do much hacking, but there were reasons for that.
I think one kind of feedback I would give is giving people who attend like prerequisites to get into the event would have been good. Because I think the event would have been more valuable if we had like at least very basic implementations already, right? So people already had experience with implementing this. And going into the event, at least I didn't have the impression that that was expected. I kind of was under the impression we would get the spec, get a quick introduction of what it is about, and then start hacking together, right? But having attended it, I think having implementations going into the event already would have been of more value.
Yep.
Basically, what I'm saying is, basically what I'm saying is have some basic prerequisites for people who attend.
Yep.
So, yeah.
But that feedback is also very pertinent to any future hackathons that might run at a OWASP event. Yeah,
I mean, we're trying to gather information on how to do this in general for CycloneDX at least. Normally at CIPITS, we say that you have to, it's not a training, you have to come with your stuff and test it. And that's probably the level we want to be at. But I realized early on that we wouldn't be at that level for this hackathon. But that's typically what we want to have and have real testing. Now we also stumbled into a problem where the Wi-Fi network wasn't good enough. We couldn't test between laptops. So that's something we need to make sure we have, so we can actually do testing and coding live on the network we're sitting. So that was another problem that stopped some of the testing that we actually could have performed in the room. Okay. But the next hackathon will be virtual and we'll set the requirements, and we will hopefully have many more implementations. So at that hackathon, we probably could have a Zoom meeting in advance to prepare and educate people who and say that if you want to learn about T, this is not the place. This is the place when you know about T, you have code and you want to test.
I think that basically means that sort of virtual hackathons are going to be a lot more useful, because the problem with sort of AppSec is that you had a limited audience. It's people who were prepared to actually, travel to Barcelona from wherever in the world. Whereas, with a virtual hackathon, you can get people coming in from anywhere. Yeah,
we just need to fix the time zones.
Exactly.
I'm sure Steve have a solution to that, or have time to set up a working group to fix that. That is a pain. Okay. Cool. Thank you. I will write together something. And we'll try again with a virtual one and see if we succeed better. Then it has to be bring your own lunch and coffees. I'm sorry. We haven't written any RFCs for coffee delivery over internet. Okay, cool. I'll write something and send it out for review in the Slack channel, and then we'll write something up to ECMA. Okay. For beta 2, we had a list from the previous meeting. We had classifiers for versions. Now we haven't got Piotr here. I don't know where we are. Pavel, do you have any idea? The platforms, ARM, blah, blah, blah.
There is a PR that like I already approved on my side. I think it should be extended later, but I also think it should be approved as it is. But yeah, I think some other people had a question. I think Paul was asking something. I actually wasn't following too closely. So so the basic idea is he is adding formats to release. Sorry, it's called distributions now, I believe, and the term he got from Steve. And those basically would address actual, let's say, zip files, jar files, I don't know, CI containers, whatever, that go per release versions. And I think that's needed.
Okay. Cool. That's good. Publish API should be included in beta 2. I'm still hoping we can get that. We have the discussion of object model we need to get done for beta 2. I think I'm getting more and more discussions. I had a lot of discussions on the corridors and floors last week in Barcelona about the signature and how that fits into the publication process. We didn't work on that last time, but there are two things in this that both Chris and I agreed on, is that if we work with I should stop sharing this and share another, the meeting notes. But anyway, now that I'm sharing this, there could be hooks for, we talked about transparency systems, so that we can verify what's happened in the same places as we have hooks for the event notification system. So that works hand in hand. And we'll try to take a look at that as well, even though that's not part of the first version of the publication API. We need to make sure that it is possible. Do you see my meeting notes now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Sorry, someone should have told me. I was writing a lot here and you didn't see. This document for you, Cal, is publicly available, so I'll add the link. Oh, you're in the Slack channel, right? So I'll send a link in that channel so you get access. Okay. But is this what we see now for beta 2, or do you have any other big things planned for beta 2?
I think that's good.
Okay. Need to check with Piotr as well. Yes, options. Okay, coming events. My conference in Stockholm, Nordic Software Security Summit, I would like to have T involved and CycloneDX. I'm still hoping we can get that Mr. Bring It over. But if not, I can't talk myself in my own conference. I need someone else there. Piotr was there last year, but he was talking about some issues they had in Log4j a couple of years ago. A sad story. Most of the public cried. The Linux Foundation Open Source Summit, there's also an OpenSSF Europe Day. I think the call for papers for Open Source Summit is closed, but I think OpenSSF Day is still open. It's in Amsterdam in August. I don't know if I'm able to travel at that point, but I think it's good to reach out to a Linux Foundation event, and there's a lot of SPDX people. So if anyone is planning to go there, I can help with getting a call for papers in. Looking at Niklas, you're closer to Amsterdam than I am. Okay, we'll discuss that. Global AppSec November in Washington, D.C. What can you say about that, Steve?
Had to find my mute button. Yeah, so the next conference is I think the first week of November, like the 5th and 6th, I believe it is, or 6th and 7th. It's in DC.
I wrote 6 and 7. Yeah.
6 and 7. Okay, yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. Okay.
Yeah, so the CFP I believe is open. So if you want to submit a talk, I believe that's open now. It's also an opportunity to have another in-person or hybrid hackathon if we want. We do realize that there are some folks that are hesitant to travel to the United States, and that's understandable. So if we do decide to have a hackathon, I would recommend that we kind of open it up to a hybrid type of approach.
Yeah. And that was another thing, but I'll remember that we didn't have any projection or screens in the room. That was a mistake, but well.
Exactly. If we have a hybrid, we'll definitely need a screen, a projector in the room.
Yeah, multiple screens, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone planning on going and participating?
Yeah, so I'm submitting CFP and I put info in Slack channel. There is a thread for that. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And if you see any events on the horizon that isn't on this list that we should be aware of, I think that will be very useful. I've got a link, by the way, from ORCVG with all the events they are covering, but that's more regulation, but a few interesting for us. But if you want to participate and talk about Koala, we have plenty of material you can start with, give your own twist. So we're going to help you along the way, but we need to start talking to put pressure on vendors. In Barcelona, I went to almost every single vendor in the exhibition and talked with them about T. Many were very happy and really interested, so I'm hoping we're going to get them engaged as well. So keep talking. There's an SBOM hackathon as well. Sorry, someone said something.
I'm going to say I'm definitely not going to be able to get to Washington. There's no way I can travel to United States. But I definitely want to go to AppSec in Vienna next year. So how soon or how late before an AppSec do we really sort of get a good idea of prices? Obviously, if you book a hotel or whatever too late, that's your own fault and you pay more. But all of us are basic costs so that they can actually be fed into a budget. You know, so that nobody can actually then sort of turn you down for funding expenses because you didn't give them plenty of notice of how much it's actually going to cost? I'm sorry, this is outside the scope of a work
No.
group.
But it's interesting for us in OWASP, so we'll take that with us. One notice, AppSec is going to be in Vienna for 3 years, if I understand it right, Steve?
Yeah, that's correct.
We signed a
mid to late
contract.
June. Yeah, that's correct. Mid to late June for the next 3 years. The hotel blocks, I don't know, have been allocated yet. So I would recommend that if you go to the hotels nearby the conference, just look at pricing. Just know that there's a possibility that that could be reduced, because again, the foundation is working with the hotels to, have a certain number of participants reserve rooms. And when we do that, we typically get discounts on those room rates.
Midsummer in Sweden is one of the most important public holidays, and it's non-religious. If you don't participate, you're almost dead. So late June is kind of scary. Or you will have Swedish and Norwegian people drinking aquavit during the conference. That's just a choice.
Could be entertaining.
Could be entertaining, as long as we don't bring the surströmming. Okay, cool. We had Chris talking about the SBOM community CISA virtual event. I haven't got any more information on that. We have an old issue. We only have product examples in PowerPoint. All my PowerPoints are in the repository on the presentations, if you want to go back, including what I just showed you on the publishing. I added that in a new version, so if you want to go back, it's in there. But we need to add the dependency track product with versions, including components with version. So we have requirements documented. I don't think we have all the requirements. If we want to open up the whole data model discussion again, we need to make sure we have the use cases and the different product models. But the Philips Hue packs is something we had. Piotr's router is something. Then we had a kind of a single product, single component version. Niklas?
Yeah, I guess multiple questions, if I may. I think Pavel already mentioned the pull request that we ideally wanted to discuss, but this is obviously not happening in this meeting. So what would be the best working group meeting environment to discuss such things? More technical stuff, I guess.
As I said earlier, we have 3 different workshops coming. Those are for the more technical discussions. If you haven't got the invitation, just ping me and I'll send you the Zoom invites for those.
Okay, awesome. So presumably the Beta 2 models workshop would then be the best place to discuss this, right?
That would be the first, and I assume we need another one as well. So as I said, I'm going to go out on Slack and plan another one the week after June 12. But if you haven't got invitations, the Zoom invitations, either book this based on this in your calendar, and I'll publish the Zoom link, or I simply add you to the Zoom invite.
If people have time right now, we can do, if we have a big enough group, we can do right after.
No, please do it in the workshops that we have scheduled and where people have booked their time. I think that's better for that kind of discussion. We need Paul, we need Piotr and others in that. Matthias?
Is the models one about the data structure that we use in the API?
We have some critical discussions because we realized during the hackathon that there was one case we didn't discover right now, but I'm being a bit of blocking point-ahead manager, because changing a lot in the data model will mean a lot of changes from everything we said. Recognizing that there's not much code we are aware of, but we went out with beta 1, said it's time to start coding. So I would like to find a smart hack for this if possible, instead of breaking things.
All good.
So
I'm seeing
I'll
some
say
things
that
and I'm thinking, where should I discuss it? Indeed, the same like Nicholas, I think. Like I see a few things in looking at the spec, and I'm like, okay, where should I discuss it? Is that in a
brilliant.
working group, bringing it up on the Slack channel, or via
The workshops are for this. These meetings, we're going into a more and more formal agenda in order to prepare the transitioning to a TC54 task group, right?
Perfect.
So the workshops are the community meetings where we throw everything up in there and take it down and see where we end up.
Sounds good.
Niklas.
Yes, a more general question about scoping, basically. So where do we have the scope of T documented somewhere? I know about the use cases document, which describes like certain use cases T wants to achieve, but is there something where we can say we won't do certain things? And this came up in the PR that Pavel also linked. So for example, there's a workflow proposed to discover new versions of components, right? Which is not in the use cases document. And I was wondering, is it even in scope for T? Do we need some kind of
We had
formal...
that. Okay, we probably need to formalize that. You're right, but I haven't got that. But that was something brought up very early, and we opened tickets for it, and we have discussed it, and we put it in scope. That's something we could do. So that has been in scope for a long time. It was brought up by Chris Gates, I believe, as something that was very much needed in the medical space. And that's why we still have it as an event.
Okay,
But
that's fair. It's just that
I think we may want to. We haven't got that religious statement now. We may want to start doing that.
Yeah, I think that would help a lot with discussing the data model as well, because this is a piece I was missing when I was looking at the spec for the first time.
There was something I discussed recently where I clearly said it wasn't in scope, but I can't remember at this point after a long day. I'll come back to it. Okay.
In general, is this the sort of stuff too that really has benefit if it's right in the README at the top level in the repo? Because people who follow a couple of links will then be at a place where if they can't read it directly, at least for README can direct them to where they might find out about it. So
Yeah.
because and this is not a problem that I have specifically with a T, not at all. But in general, I find a lot of problems when, for instance, I'm trying to explain to somebody outside the work group, hey, this is what we're actually working on. And I find it difficult to actually get a single link to a summary, which would, per Niklas, also encapsulate what it's not as much as what it is.
I think for some of us that have been working with it for a long time, it's been quite clear, but we never put it in a document. You may find traces of it in KoalaCon presentations, but we'll certainly need to document this.
Yeah, I'm a point of view that if I'm trying to recruit people to the work group, it's better to have this kind of information sooner rather than later, simply as an advertising thing, a recruitment tool.
Yeah, the problem will be, as I've seen in my IETF groups, when this become popular, people will bring all kinds of stuff into this and want to expand the protocol in all kinds of directions. So suddenly we have multimedia 3D video transfer using T, which is not in scope. So I've seen this many times. Yeah, that we have some text on TC54.org. Absolutely. Thank you, Steve. But we'll need to make sure we have it in GitHub as well. I think that's a very good feedback. Friends, we're on extra time. I thank you for participating. I look forward to seeing you in the workshops and in our regular meeting 2 weeks from now. Please read the notes. If you see other events coming up, let me know, and I'll see you in GitHub. Thank you very much for participating.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you.